I was raised a Catholic, very active in the Catholic Church. I got married in 1964 in the Catholic Church, and I also remained active. I would lecture up on the altar, and my wife and I at that time had 5 children. And after 14 years of marriage, my wife decided to divorce me. At that time, I worked, my best friend that I worked with was kind of a wild and crazy guy, and he loved to chase after women and party and have a good time, and I didn't have any place to live, so he offered me his apartment to sleep on the couch, and I didn't have any money to speak of, so I stayed with him and started following in his footsteps. And I'd go out and party and have a good time and hang out in taverns and chase around. And during that time, I met Diane, and we dated for about a year and a half, and we decided to get married. My wife, of course, Diane had 4 girls, and I had 5 kids, and we decided to get married anyways. Most people thought we were nuts, but we did it. And one day at work, my wife called me and said, "You need to come home, there's something wrong with Kitty." That was my youngest daughter. And when I got there, I knew something was seriously wrong with her, and I called an ambulance, and I took her to the hospital, and they told us after a couple hours that she was very seriously ill and had Reye syndrome and needed to go to Iowa City right away. So they airlifted her to Iowa City, and I spent a week up in the hospital, slept on the floor, and after a week she was declared brain dead, and they told us that we needed to disconnect her from life support. She died in my arms, holding her. And on the way home, I was really a very low point in my life, and all I could say all the way home from Iowa City was, "I'll never be the same, I'll never be the same." And I started to think about God, how I needed God in my life. Because I had tried different things. I had tried being involved in witchcraft. I even considered Satan worship. I had drank, tried a few drugs, tried just about everything. And I just knew that I needed something more in my life. Plus the individual that was working with me, I gave my life to Christ in Oscar Mayer while we were working. And I was baptized over in the Moline Church. And one of the things it did was, when I came up out of the water, I remember that, I just felt good. And I felt like a new person. And I knew that I had to change things in my life. One of the biggest things was my language. I had to work on my language. And little by little, I was able to overcome that, for the most part. And one of the things that I noticed, one of the biggest things I noticed in my life was that I loved my wife in a different way. I really never knew what love was until I had experienced the love of Christ in my life. For me to try to comprehend how Christ could love me after all that I did in my life, even cursed him, and yet he continued to love me and forgive me. Just overwhelmed me. But I had a new appreciation for my love in my relationship with my wife. And one time, not too long ago, I asked her, I said, you think we'd still be married if I wasn't a Christian? And she said no, and I agreed with her. Because I never knew what love was until I had experienced that love of Christ and how much he had changed my life. But it feels so good to know that Christ loves me, forgives me, and that I have a new life in him. He has really changed me. Diane and I have been married 31 years, and I love her more today than the day I married her. And looking back, I thank God how much he's changed my life. What a blessing. What a blessing it is to know that even when I screw up, which I still do, that he loves me and can forgive me.